Hello and welcome to eclipse season. I decided to hop on and talk to you a bit about transits, progressions, solar returns, eclipses, really how to predict the future. And I thought it was time to sort of peel back the curtains and share with you some of the astrologer secrets, some of the things that I do to prepare for a reading and how to make predictions about your life, about the world, about a country, pretty much anything. So I wanted to share some of these secrets with you just because we might as well all know these things. And if you want to learn more about how to predict the future and how to give accurate as well as thoughtful readings to other human beings as an astrologer about the future, predictive readings, I'm teaching a class on how to give predictive readings coming up soon. It's an 8-week, it's actually 6-week, it's condensed. We're doing a 6-week immersion very soon, starting in November. And the sign up is in my bio if you're interested in that as well. But we'll be diving deep into prediction techniques and primarily how to take you out of knowing about transits, eclipses, progressions, and all that, and how to give a reading with all of it, and really how to build a practice, gain confidence, get rid of imposter syndrome and all of this. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be teaching in the course, really helping you go from having read all the books and taken some classes to actually being a professional astrologer giving readings. And I'll be live with you, and there'll be some pre-recorded, some live. It's a pretty intense class, and anyway, that's called The Art of the Reading. It's coming up soon. If you're interested in that, you can find in my bio. But today I want to just give you some information right now because I was looking at these eclipses. We have an eclipse right now that was last week at 16 degrees. At 2 degrees and of Scorpio, and we have one at 16 degrees of Taurus coming up. So eclipses, you've probably heard we're in eclipse season. Eclipses are one of the many tools that an astrologer will use. So I look at these eclipses, the eclipses that just happened, and that tells me a lot about the energy of the entire year ahead. So these are one of the things I use, and probably I'd say the most important and accurate tool in predictive astrology are eclipses. So when I sit down with a client, the first thing I do is I think, where were the eclipses? Okay, 2 degrees Scorpio, 16 degrees Taurus. I put those points in the chart. Number one thing, eclipses are your oldest time-honored technique, and they've been used since the earliest days, the Chaldeans, Egyptians, and still they are, I think, top tier predictive method. So wherever the solar eclipse is, it will tell you where you are going to have to take a significant leap of faith and courage. That point, that degree, is going to be hot for the entire year in your chart. So I suggest you find where 2 degrees Scorpio is in your chart right now, because that is the area of your life, that house, that you're going to have to take big risks in. Okay, so it's the first thing I look at, where are the eclipses? And I look at those kind of like these hot points in the chart that are going to continually get activated throughout your whole year. The lunar eclipse, which happens on November 8th, coming up soon, that shows me where you will have to release the grip on what you know and what you think is the deal in favor of some unknown. But both the solar and the lunar eclipse are going to require you to take a significant leap of faith and courage. Has anybody here taken that already? You're feeling it? Okay. So the first thing I look at is where those eclipse points are, right? Now, following that, the next thing I'm going to look at when I sit down with a client is where the progressed moon is. The progressed moon changes sign every 2 years, and that's going to show me the theme. It's like the wash on the canvas. I look at where the progressed moon is. Is it in Aries? Is it in Scorpio? That's the theme for the year. And if your progressed moon is in Aries, you're going to meet a lot of Aries that year. You're going to have to learn some big Aries lessons. If your progressed moon is in Capricorn, this will be a year where you're learning a lot about getting your books in order, professionalism, organizational sorts of things. So what we talked about so far, first number one thing, eclipses, one of the strongest techniques. Look at those eclipse points. They're going to be hot for the whole year. Second technique, find where the progressed moon is. The sign is going to be the wash on the canvas, and I look at it as setting the foundation of the year. That sign, it's like, okay, we're in the key of F sharp. That is your progressed moon. You should know the house and you should know the sign of that moon, because that's going to tell you where the gun is loaded. It can't fire unless it's loaded, okay? That's going to show where the action wants to happen. So it's better off you position yourself there where the action wants to happen versus not. Are you with me? Following here? So you look at that in sign and house. Now, these are all astrologer techniques. I'm just sharing with you what I've been doing in my 20 years of practice. I've had a full-time practice for about 20 years, and I think I hone this sort of method a little more every year. So I figured I might as well share with you what I've been up to and how I'm doing it these days. Okay. So, technique number 3. Are you ready? I'm going to very simply look at Jupiter and Saturn. I'm going to see what house Jupiter is in, and what sign Jupiter is in your chart, what house it's in, and what signs, where Saturn, what house it's in. All I want to know is where's your luck and where you're going to have to work. So I want to know that. This is my technique number 3, the third thing I'm going to look at. Where are your challenges? Where are you going to have to actually put in the hard work? And where are your gifts? Now, what I always find with most of my clients is this. They are obsessed with where Saturn's at and like working through the hardship and the challenge. And meanwhile, it's like, hey, if you turn the gaze and look over there, things are actually looking good. But humanity really likes to focus on what is hard and what's not working. For some reason, we're drawn to that. So I always try to make my clients aware of where Jupiter's at, because often we're not focusing there. But when you shift the gaze and when you draw your attention there, really good stuff happens. So you want to focus where Jupiter is as well. And know that where Saturn is, hey, you're going to have to put in the work. But just don't make it your sole focus, because the grass is actually green somewhere else. Are you with me? A lot of you are asking me how to find the progressed moon. Well, you will need an astrology software or an astrologer for that. So, yeah, one of the two. Okay. Again, we are starting a class on all of these predictive techniques, namely how to cohesively put them together and give a beautiful reading, build a client relationship, and have retention for years to come. I've been seeing some of the same clients for 20 years, and new ones always come in as well. But I think that having a solid technique here and delivery method and ethical code are key. So I do teach ethics. I have a lot of background in ethics for astrology and non-astrology. So that is really important in this space as well. All right. I mean, you're dealing with people's lives, and astrologers can get this sort of all-powerful attitude, like, hey, I got your whole chart in my hand, all the answers, and it's really not that. My technique is get myself out of the way, and I become just a translator. I'm just translating the language of the planets to you. That's all I am. I'm cleared out, and I'm a translator. You might have a different method, but that's how I approach the reading. Okay. So Jupiter and Saturn, we talked about that. We talked about the progressed moon. We talked about number 1, eclipses. Number 2, progressed moon sign house. Number 3, Jupiter and Saturn. So Jupiter and Saturn are showing me where your luck is and where your challenges will be. I try to turn the gaze where the luck is. The wash on the canvas, progressed moon, shows me where the gun is loaded, where there's what we're talking about, what this year, what the theme is. Okay. Third thing is I'm going to actually look at the weather, which is the transits. You notice I'm looking at transits last, because the transits are the melody. The rest of those things set the foundation. I'm going to look at the transits now briefly. I'm just going to look at them, not going to pay too much attention. And then I'm going to go, follow me here, to the solar return chart. The solar return chart and the transits I'm going to look at together now because they're going to talk to each other. Okay? So I look at the solar return, which is a chart, not to be confused with a solar chart. A solar return is a chart that happens on your birthday or very near your birthday. All right. So the solar return chart is going to show me where you shine from that year, where changes will be, where love is. It's just going to show me what's going on with you in all areas of your life that year. Now in the solar return chart, I look at the house rulers. I pretty much treat it like I would a natal chart. And I kind of look at it like this is your natal chart for the year. All right, so that solar return is there. So far we have a lot of things, right? All right, let's say them. Eclipses, progressed moon and sign and house, Jupiter, Saturn, right? Transits, solar return chart. Now I'm not going to go deep into the transits yet. I'm going to have them up, but I'm focusing on the solar return because that's where things are likely to happen in your life. If there's, let's say, if there's a big transit to Venus this year for you, and you might be thinking love, but hey, your solar return chart has all of your planets in your 2nd and 10th house, I'm going to say it's money and career, not love. But if you have a big transit to Venus, and all of your planets in your solar return are in your 5th and 7th house, I would say it's about love and romance. So what I'm doing here is I'm using context. Now, contextualizing all of this and synthesizing is not something your astrology books are going to teach you. That's something a human can do. That's something you can do with practice. That's something I teach you how to do, how to tell a story. But we should never be like, oh, you have a pinky nail, you have an eyelash. You don't ever want to look at things like that cookbook style. Oh, you have a Mercury in the 8th. Oh, you have a, Jupiter in the 2nd house. Like, already you kind of lost me as a client. Like, I'm not there. But if you talk to me as a client, let's just say in a humanistic way, and you're not telling me my Jupiter is quincunx by Neptune, but you're talking to me about meaningful things in my life, I'm listening. So I think it's important for us as astrologers to start sentences in a humanistic way, not a way that is all astro-techy. Are you with me? Because we're talking to people here, and we really don't want to get lost in the text. So a lot of what I teach in this class, Art of the Reading, is how to give a cohesive, heart-centered reading that's really going to change somebody's life and be impactful, be memorable, and give them something to work with as well. So that is not what you will find in the books. What you will find in the books is, what does Mercury in Scorpio mean? What does Venus in the 8th house mean? And then you're left with all of this knowledge. Trust me, I've been teaching for almost 20 years now, and students come in with so much knowledge of all these things, but without any idea of how to put it all together cohesively and really tell a story. So that's something I focus on with you all, is context. And it's really what I find missing in the world of astrology. There's a lot of cookbooks out there, and only you can put it all together. That's why we cannot lose the human touch. In this world of technology and automation, it's really important to remember the difference between you and a computer and an AI. And it is the heart-centered way in which you will synthesize the ingredients of the chart and speak directly to the soul of your client. Any algorithm that, Astro.com or any of these websites could create cannot do that. Those algorithms will, slice and dice up all these pieces, deliver them, and you're going to feel really disjointed, really like that. You're going to be like, I have this, and I have this, and I have that. And you're left with nothing because it's a little TMI, and it's not things that really make sense. So anyway, back to the point here. What we talked about was these methods, and those are all a lot of techniques. And you don't want to get lost in the sauce. You don't want to get lost in the techniques. You want to maintain connection with your client. So this is what I like to work on, is how you can use those techniques, but not make it like obvious that you're going to be like, well, I'm looking at this technique and this line and that number, because that's really not that interesting to your client, honestly. What is interesting is what's going on in their life and how you are empowering them by looking at these things and seeing the realm of possibility that is available, where the challenges are, where the risks are, where the opportunities are, asking questions that will inspire them to think on their own and make powerful decisions. A good astrologer is somebody that knows how to ask the right questions. And so in this course, and what I like to teach you is how to ask a really good question to your client. Because if you can ask the right kind of question and they can answer their own query, that is the most empowering experience you can give somebody. This is counseling skills. This is ethics training. This is all of what I teach in Art of the Reading as well. So it is very much about the synthesis, the counseling, and the ethics too. All right, I was just looking at the chart of Kanye West because obviously he's in the media a lot right now. And I was like, well, what's going on in Kanye's chart? And I was fascinated because, it's of course on the heels of these eclipses. And I thought, all right, let's have a look. So sure enough, Kanye's born with a whole lot of planets in Taurus, where the eclipse family is working out its stuff on the axis of Taurus and Scorpio. He has Venus, Mars, and Chiron all together in Taurus. Okay, so we see that all at early degrees of Taurus. Early degrees of Taurus are opposite early degrees of Scorpio, right? Where was the eclipse? Early degrees of Scorpio, right? So the eclipse was at 2 degrees Scorpio. Kanye's Venus is at 2 degrees Scorpio. Kanye's Venus is at 2 degrees Taurus, opposite to Scorpio. Kanye's Mars is at 1 Taurus. So what happened here was this. This is a man who has all those planets opposed to Uranus and Scorpio. He's born with this intense need to buck the system, to do things his own way, which is not inherently bad. I mean, not everything's great about the system, okay? It's kind of like how you do it. So yes, he's a bit of a rebel and a renegade. All his planets oppose Uranus. And there's a part of him that is sort of intent on being the antagonist and ruffling feathers, pissing people off. That is sort of his jam. Now, this eclipse that happened, what all it did was it fired up that controversial part of him that sets the entire tone for the year ahead. So that eclipse, when I look at Kanye's chart, I see, all right, that eclipse was on his Uranus, opposing all his planets. So I can see, if I was seeing him as a client, like a few months ago, and I was looking at this eclipse that's really going to activate some controversy for him, I might discuss that with him and ask him some probing questions about what he's looking for, what he's angry about, and all of these things. Of course, there is no excuse for anti-Semitism whatsoever, obviously, but what we're seeing here is something he had in his natal chart got activated. So only things that are inherently in your chart are things that can be activated by transits and eclipses. Eclipses and transits are not going to bring something out that is not a part of you to begin with. So what it did was it really brought out this part of him that loves to get a lot of attention by starting controversy. And some people who have that same aspect might just have really innovative or rebellious ideas. But for whatever reason, in the way that he activates it, he becomes very offensive and starts controversy too. And we're not talking about him as an artist, we're talking about the controversial Kanye as well. All right. So I think that was interesting, and clearly that sets the tone for his year, and his stocks, everything went way down for him. All of his sponsors took the money out, and I mean, this is conjunct his Uranus, oppose all his planets. So clearly, it completely changed his fate. We don't have a birth time for Kanye, so I don't know all of that, but we can see for him, this eclipse certainly set the tone for him this year in not a great way. Now, the lunar eclipse will activate those planets as well. So we'll see. It will continue that theme. Now, I want to answer some of your questions now because I've been watching the chat and it's active. So hi there. And, I like to look at charts in the media. So I've been doing personal chart readings for about 20 years, running the school for that long too, of teaching astrology, mainly teaching synthesis, taking people from the place where you read of a lot of astrology books, take classes, to you're a high-functioning professional astrologer. And crossing that bridge is the art of the reading. That is this course. That is where I'm going to take your hand, guide you through the practice of synthesis and storytelling with your client. So this is what I love to do and share that practice with you. Now let's talk about making also predictions for countries and the weather, right? Because there's predictions that we make personally. We can look at what's going on in the lives of celebrities or people notorious. So let's think about that. Now, every country has a chart as well, right? Countries have birthdays. The USA was born July 4th. Okay. So when we want to see what's going on with the country, we look at the transits and all of the same techniques that just apply to the person. However, if we want to see the landscape, the global landscape, you know what technique I look at? Who knows here? Eclipses. Eclipses are going to tell me the global theme as well as Saturn. Okay, let's first talk about the eclipses. Eclipses are where the nodes are. So when I want to know what's going on in the world in 2022 and 2023, well, if the nodes and the eclipses are in Taurus and Scorpio, I can see there's a big conversation going on about Taurus and Scorpio things. And that means natural resources, things that are beneath the Earth's surface, resources like coal, oil, all sorts of things, and how we use them. Also, money and how we use money, how's money spent. So what's going to happen here, as eclipses are in Taurus and Scorpio, is things will be eclipsed and exposed regarding what's happening to money, how it's hidden, where it's stored. Things will be exposed in regards to natural resources and how we use them and how they can be used too. So what we're learning about is Taurus and Scorpio. Where the eclipses are shows us the global change. Okay? Look out for that this year. And you might see new natural resources come out of thin air as well. Literally. All right. Especially as, Pluto moves into Aquarius and Uranus moves into Gemini, we'll definitely see natural resources come out of the air. Very exciting time. Okay, next thing. What is the world concerned about right now? Where's the focus on? So that is Saturn. I'm going to look at Saturn's placement to see, if people are concerned about, let's say when Saturn's in Aquarius, there's a lot of concern here about equanimity and equality, rightly so. Okay, that is a concern, a public concern right now. Saturn and Aquarius. Now, the dark side of Saturn and Aquarius is also a polarization of extremist groups too. So on one side of that, we have equality and equanimity. On the other side, there can be polarizations too. All right. If I want to see culturally, if I want to predict like what's hot, what's not, what's in style, the two planets Jupiter and Neptune together are going to give me like the stylistic mark of that year. So if I want to see like what kinds of fashion are trending, what colors are trending, what textures are trending, I'm going to look at the conglomerate of Jupiter and Saturn together. So right now, Jupiter's in Aries. Well, it's going to Pisces tomorrow. But let's say it's in Aries and, well, Aries to Pisces, and Neptune's in Pisces. So what we can see, in as far as prediction of trends with Jupiter and Saturn in a sign like Pisces, let's just say, this is a very imaginative time for fashion and color and illusion, using light in unexpected ways to create illusions. Augmented reality used in fashion and art and color, and a lot of translucent sorts of shimmery things used as well. Really interesting fabrics that cast illusions as well. Translucence of all colors. It's Pisces, so you can imagine sort of the way that fishes are, that kind of shiny, strange texture, very Piscean there. There's a watery quality. There's a very flowy quality there. But when we have a lot of planets, like in a sign like Capricorn, fashion becomes much more clean-cut lines. You got a lot of more professional looks, stark, bold colors. It's just all stark silhouettes. But wherever Jupiter and Neptune are going to tell me the fashion tone. So I look at planets for the weather as well. Planetary patterns will tell me, is it going to be a hot year, a cold year, and all of these things. The weather, I could just also look at planets like Jupiter and Saturn together. They're going to give me a pulse on the weather. If they're in hot signs like Aries, it's going to be a hotter year. If they're all in water and air signs, it's going to be a colder year. And this is like Farmer's Almanac stuff. This is old ancient wisdom. Okay. So making predictions, I think we've covered a lot today. There's personal predictions, which I've shared with you, a technique that I use sort of going through all of those 5 things. I hope you remember. And we've also talked about making predictions globally for countries, as well as world predictions, culture. What's the culture concerned about at the time? Let's talk about, we've also talked about the weather. Sometimes people ask me, like, who's going to win the election and things like that. There's a lot of really complicated techniques you could use, but I personally keep it pretty simple because I find sometimes that the simplest soup is the best. And once again, I look at the candidates and I look at the sky and I simply see which candidate mirrors the sky the most, because that's the candidate that's going to be a vibrational match for this time. So that's what I have for you. Okay. Any questions now? I think you all are asking great questions. Somebody says, did you say a solar eclipse is where you need to Well, the solar eclipse is where the new beginning will be in your life. But in order for that new beginning to happen, you might have to let go of something else, okay? Now, the lunar is where you're going to really release. But both are going to require a trust leap, for sure. And you're right in between the eclipses right now. We are in the heart of eclipse season right now. All right. Ask any questions in the question box. All right. I think I got to everything. I've been seeing them as they've been coming in as well. I will say again, if all of you are interested to learn more astrology with me, this new class starts on November the 9th on the eclipse, and it's going to be 6-week intensive with me. We have codes for it, everything. You can sign up in the link in my bio, in the Instagram or wherever you are listening to this. You will see a link below if you're on YouTube or something else. So what I want to say though is it's one thing to be able to know astrology in terms of having read the books and understand what every planet means and sign and house. It's a completely different skill to be able to give a really beautiful, soul-centered, heart-centered reading and build rapport, connection, ethics, and how to tell a story, synthesis, putting all the pieces together. A lot of people come into my school feeling like they've been studying for 10 years, yet they are afraid to give a reading. And this is why, because nobody really teaches you that. That's not to be found in books. And this is actually what I love teaching most. So in the class, we do live sessions with me. I break you out into groups. We do drills of different techniques. You're going to get so much out of this. And you're going to also make friends for life. People who take this class actually stay connected for years to come. We have an amazing community group that stays tight the entire class as well. So often years after the class too, which is amazing for me to see. Anyway, it's a 6-week intensive, but you have it for lifetime access to the course. It's called The Art of the Reading, Predictive Astrology. Making predictions, can be, I know there's a lot of fear around that. Sometimes people are afraid to make predictions about the future, but hey, we're astrologers. This is our job to make predictions. The question is how, and the tone is everything. The how is everything. So what I love to teach you about is the how and how to do it in an ethical way. I'm not afraid to make very bold predictions and be extremely detailed about them because I'm just reading the charts and translating the language, and I'm being a translator. So you're not going to see me ever hold back. If I see something, I will say it in the chart. The question is how. So I hope that you all have gotten a lot out of this today. And I look forward to hearing any more of your questions. And you can email us, DM, whatever you'd like, and be in touch. I'll see you all again soon. Have a beautiful night. Thank you.